Midst of the setup for the battle, the main battle of Lens. Now, we played this cav skirmish, which is a little weird because it doesn't feed into this, it has no effect. It ends 20 minutes before the main scenario starts. Whatever happened, maybe this is like hypothetical or something, although it doesn't seem to say it. A sharp cavalry skirmish developed around the heights. This is a small engagement, a good way to learn basic mechanics. The cav was fighting for the heights, and the French prevailed and deployed the whole of their army there. Now, the big deal listed here is that the Spaniards are unable to get their artillery on the heights, which we shall see how it sets up and whatnot. But we can see immediately the French won historically, whatever that means. I feel that that's unlikely by the scenario victory conditions for the cav skirmish, which are peculiar. The Spaniards just have to have any unit up on this paler area here, the level 4 terrain, and they win. The idea of trying to deploy artillery in the midst of a cav skirmish seems almost impossible, so I would almost argue that, like, whatever the results of this, it wouldn't happen. And also, the results of this involved a lot of units being driven from the field, which these units are coming back. They're setting up immediately some 20 minutes after that scenario, where normally they would be gone for the battle, either in the dead box or in the pursuit box. The dead box not necessarily meaning dead. It could just be, chased off the battlefield. But the mechanisms that the game has are not appropriate for whatever this is, and this, other than just like letting you see a little tiny cav battle with silly victory conditions, to be honest, doesn't seem to serve any purpose. Again, I wish this wasn't in here, or was part of a battle that starts at 7 a.m. where you're moving a lot of forces on, just as an option, right? Instead of, I don't know. It would be interesting to see a battle in which positioning made sense. Maybe, I don't know what it could, because you would just continue with the battle, right? You would make charges and whatnot rather than try to position yourself in a way that you could have your field army all set up properly. You just wouldn't do that. So I don't know. Anyway, I just wanted to flash in there because this is, again, there's something really wacky about this. If this wasn't in here, I would be, okay, the forces set up and did all their stuff. But apparently there was some sort of fight and some sort of question who was going to obtain the heights. But the idea of, like, there being enough time to set up the artillery up on them, even if the Spaniards won, seems pretty iffy to me. So this is the eventual disposition in Lens. Doesn't say I can't do it, so I'm limbering all the Spanish guns to move them up into a better range for firing. If I've got to attack, I want to have a decent chance of softening the position up. This might mean that the French want to come down off their hill, although that's giving up their own advantage of their guns. They get a special first fire. We'll talk about that in a moment. We got a cav wing over here under charge, facing another cav wing under charge. That sounds fair. And that, I don't know. Cav wing for the French over here, another cav wing here. Neither one moving forward particularly, although this one's at least in make ready. We'll talk about this in a bit. The French have their artillery in front, heavy infantry, some cav mixed in there, another line of heavy infantry, then behind it another command of cav. This is cool that it's not just part of this whole thing, because that's going to help. I can deploy cav to where it's needed. Yeah, it might be helpful to have some cav in an infantry wing. Every now and then it's useful, but usually it just fucks me up. Just in terms of like, yeah, cav has a certain natural way of operating, and when it's mixed in a wing like this is. Over here, things are really fucking weird. So we got a couple of arquebusiers. I don't mind them so much. You know, the cuirassiers are the real fighting power. And you can see there are more Spaniards by a little bit. Then we've got a heavy infantry line that's got cav actually mixed into it. I don't know. What the hell with that? Like, worse than that, though, we've got these units, which are without pikes. And that's all you have is that little picture to tell you they don't have pikes. I wish there was some kind of graphical thing that really popped out to tell me that. It's going to be hard to remember that there are units here that are not with pikes. And they use and can't form hedgehog, I think. They use this kind of ugly melee capability and are not, oh no, they can form hedgehog, they just suck. They're not that bad, actually. I don't know. But yeah, they're not, oh wait, what are we looking at here? No, they can't form hedgehog. Their heavy infantry, no pikes against hedgehog has as much trouble, has more trouble than normal heavy infantry would against them. But they're basically not melee units. They're powerful musket fire units. Definitely something of a later age. We still don't have salvo fire on either side here, which, I don't know, feels kind of funny. Because, yeah, I mean, all of these scenarios feel kind of late to not be having salvo fire. And let's see. Behind that, we have another line. And again, there's some with pikes. Yeah, it's so obvious he's got a pike. And then some without. What we don't have is the 3 musketeer units that were in that cav fight. Those have no deployment rules aligned with them. Look here. And say Bukoy is a 0, not a -1. Yeah, I'm okay with that. One interesting factor is we have Gramont in here. He's got better ratings than in the last battle. I think it's the same guy. I'm not sure. Could just be 2 guys with the same name. But yeah, he's a -1 on this. He was a 0 back, I think, in the last battle. Let's take a quick look. Where does Gramont get put in? He was like my army commander. This Turenne, Marcin, Gramont, d'Antoine Duc de Gramont, prisoner of war. This could be a different one. No, same guy, but he's just better in this scenario. Okay, you know, whatever. And yeah, what are our special rules here? On top of the terrain effects that we had listed, we got senior wing commander as Gramont. The Spanish instead, and this is usually not put here because it's repeated under the army commander replacement, but we've, instead of a senior wing commander, we have an army replacement. Quite often there are scenarios, or we've seen some scenarios, where Qual was one of them, where there was a replacement and a senior wing commander, and that also makes sense. No salvo fire. The French artillery get a first fire where they don't end up fired before the beginning of the scenario. The Salm Cuirassier. It assisted the left in the Cav skirmish and can start at either end of the left's front line. Well, I don't know. What are they talking about here? Salm Cuirassier. It was, I mean, all the units are on the board. There's Salm himself. I don't see that there. I don't see it here. It's in here. So it was given setup rules to be in here, according to that. But I guess maybe you can stick it somewhere else if you want. That leaves a hole in my line. I don't know what that does for me. I think I may do that. You know, it'll confuse me because it says it's part of the center. Yeah, I don't want to confuse myself. We got our orders down. The victory. The French need a lot of victory points. Wow. I mean, that's a hell of a lot for a battle in which the Spaniards have more forces. And this was apparently a decisive French victory. All right, well, whatever. I'm going to look over the historical notes before I start. Like I said, it's daylight out. That means it's like past 7. I got to be up and ready to go out and do stuff at 3, but I'll be fine as long as she comes and rings my doorbell as opposed to like... I've already instructed that, yeah, just wake me up. I'll be ready in 10 minutes, whatever. Boy, okay, so managed to go out for my walk. Got up in time, which was shocking because that meant only like 4 or 5 hours of sleep, but I got up like an hour early. And went for a nice walk, decently long, I guess. About 3 hours, you know, total. And then went shopping, went out to eat. Came back and, you know, all the excitement and how tired I was tired, you know, I took a nap or whatever for a couple of naps, whatever. Anyway, it's like 2 in the morning now on Friday, raining pretty heavily. Turned the heat on, and here we are ready to start the Battle of Lens. We have both of these with the same level commanders in them. By the way, now we have the Prince of Condé. Same ratings as Duke of Enghien. Feels a little silly to have 2 counters for the same person. But anyway, I guess odd the French go first, because the ratings are the same. I don't know that we want to charge in. That's what our orders are. But we don't have to actually follow them. We only have to move 1 hex. The thing here is the French need a lot of victory points. The Spaniards do not. But remember, that's not an indicator under this system who the attacker actually is. And in this situation, it looks like the Spaniards are the attackers again, trying to go up the high ground, etc. You know, it's just goofy feeling, right? Like, It really is. The French have to overcome like 100 points. Now the Spanish outnumber them. I don't know. I don't know how reasonable this actually is, but I'm going to put the onus on the French. Even so, but they're sitting on the good ground. I just don't know. I catch myself already starting to move. I forgot to pre-fire those artillery, which I'm allowed to do. It's not that important, but I did get a lucky shot off, which changes things slightly. I also moved Conti up here, and or is he Conde? See, he's Conde here. We've got a Conti unit and a Conde unit. I think that's both the same person, with just variant spellings. But I find it kind of odd that they're both in the scenario. I moved up this far. I'm going to roll for a continuation. If I get one, I might move him back up because we're within range for the charge now. But I didn't necessarily want to make the charge. Counter charges tend to be pretty valuable. But again, they're iffy. So I'm opening things up to letting him do the initial charge. And it's his turn. And I kind of stupidly didn't have Leopold attached to this unit that's charging. I don't know why. It was dumb. But this is the result that we hit at the end of the movement before the close combat happens. We've got a couple of Burgundians who got knocked off, both chased off the board by French units. And then kind of this mishmash, you know, like this is a pro-Spanish unit, this is a pro-Spanish unit that bounced off things. But lots of combats, mostly now. Like the initial wave, the counterattacks, or the countercharges, those all go in favor of the French because they have the momentum when they make them. But now these all go in favor of the Spaniards. And it's kind of a, do you want to make that first charge? Look, if you have two continuations possible, it's really appealing. And so I definitely wanted to unleash the Spaniards. Plus, they're an attack. I mean, they could do some damage here. By the way, I found out what these guys are for. They're there to react to any breakthroughs. And that is actually a very French tactic, although other countries start picking it up afterwards. Putting a cav wing after the initial infantry wing, or within the infantry, but after the first line. It's an interesting concept. Things are a bloody mess after. They looked like a bloody mess before. We did kill one more French, knocked one back routed, and a continuation does not work, which means we will be going over to one of those three French wings, but I am taking a break because, yeah, two cav wings slamming together, it's always hefty. Advanced our second cav wing to basically maximum charge range, get a continuation and move a hex further up because I wasn't able to get to charge, so I'm not able to hit these guys. These guys wouldn't have a lot of chance to countercharge because of their orders, so it seemed like kind of a nice idea to launch a charge, but if I can't get there, I can't get there. That puts me over to the Spanish center, and again, I've got these guns limbered so that I can push them forward a little bit. This infantry wing has moved forward kind of slowly. I did get a continuation, but I'm moving at the rate of the guns. I was hoping to get a third and unlimber my guns right here so that I'd get to fire them next turn. As it stands, I think I'm in grazing range. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not here, and this guy maybe should have fired an opportunity fire or something. The problem is I moved the units first that were coming out. I've moved the interspersed cav between the guns to help protect them, and also on the wings, And we've got, a couple of interception attempts were made. One was successful, but he bounced off in an ugly sort of fashion. They're done, and that's going to put me up to the French center, which honestly I think I don't want to do anything with. This pushing forward by the Spaniards, I don't know. They have more cannon, so the idea of moving forward a little bit and firing their artillery, because these guys are on a, what's kind of weird. They're on a actually I don't think grazing fire is going to work because we're on a slope. They're on a slope, so like I can't see these guys. Although again, if you try to think of this in any reasonable way, that's not the way this hill probably works. It's not a plateau, I'm guessing. It's a slight, increase in a rise. So I would actually, if you take like the CWB or Wellington's Victory type of systems, I would be able to see these guys because of where they are. But that's not the way the slopes work in this game, and I really think line of sight is a little fucked up in it. Moreover, I wouldn't get the grazing fire. That's fine, because if I'm going, especially if I'm firing up a slope, it's not gonna bounce up the hill as easily, essentially. But anyway, I'm not going to correct all that kind of stuff at this point. I don't feel like long-range firepower is that big a factor, and I'm willing to say, yeah, the slope is going to interfere enough that I just can't fire. But it's very hard to believe that someone down in the valley can't see someone who's not over the crest of the ridge. And we shall see what happens there. Wasn't able to get into charge with this unit. If I got a first turn charge, I would have gone with it. Instead, I got a continuation, went into make ready. Meanwhile, Leopold's bouncing around over here. That's the end of the first turn. There is one thing, the commander over here got knocked off his horse. So he might not be coming back. Probably isn't coming back. Oh, he is. So that first turn didn't cause much. We had a little bit of a cav skirmish back here. I'll put him, well, we'll put him with Condi just because. And yeah, it's just clean up. We do have a router here. Might have wanted to be with him, but it's hard to get from charge. Like I can get from charge to rally. It's hard to get from charge, but I don't need my leader for that. It's hard to get from charge to, actually I'd be rolling after he moves anyway. It's hard to get from charge to receive charge. I forgot I have a fourth command here. I'm gonna take him into play. I think my plan with him would be to swing in here and reinforce where I'm having a difficulty where I don't have the Cav command working properly. And they got a continuation. Cav's able to redeploy pretty quickly, so I pushed them over here. I want to get that extra weight there against those Spaniards. I'm really worried about that flank collapsing. Because if a solid Cav unit is able to deal with an infantry, even one with Cav integrated in it. The Cav integrated in it isn't that powerful. It's so much more powerful to have the Cav in a little, like this little wing here. It's just so much stronger. But yeah, I have to keep track that I have four wings on that side. I don't know that it made too much difference. I think the only thing it would have changed was this guy who didn't really make many decisions, maybe some of the movements of the commanders, but it's okay. And it does mean the router got fixed because of the extra commands that I got. Meant Condi got to run over and try to repair something. Boy, I'm awfully tired, but I'm trying to force myself up here to do a little bit more. I got, again, 2 commands in charge, both with the same kind of leader. So this time we're going to initiate with the Spaniards. Looks like they have to try reforming, especially since the reserve has come into play. Spanish cav got chased off the board by another French, but some of the interceptions didn't come about. We got two of our leaders here, including the army commander. That can't be good. And a fair amount of attacks, trying to limit them as much as possible with the use of Leopold, but yeah. Takeaway that I forgot to mention, I got stuck in charge. The French commanders come away unscathed, but the French do not, and we're seeing some additional losses showing up there across the board. Continuation chance, which we get, and again I will try. I don't want to drop into rally unless I have to. And I'm not formation broken, so I don't have to. If I recall correctly. I gotta look that up. I always have to look it up. It's such a pain in the ass. I wish there was a cheat sheet in here that told me that, because that's just one of those rules I just constantly have to look up. The requirement for falling into rally. Because I think everything is at least formation shaken. I took my chances because I don't want to get stuck with no ability to get another action. Although after getting one continuation, maybe I should have just dropped into rally. I mean, it still isn't guaranteed. I don't know if those dice are saying what they're saying. I don't think I do. Anyway, we got a couple more attacks, not necessarily good ones. A little bit more chaos. There's a French unit here, for example. The Spaniards are strung out all over. This is a French unit. No more casualties. No router there. The leaders weren't killed or anything like that. We didn't get another continuation. That will throw us on this French command, which is somewhat problematic. I don't know. I think we go for rally. No, we go for fuck. See, this guy can move quicker because if I go to receive charge, he's okay. Yeah, we'll go for receive charge, I guess. With that -3 on there, we got a pretty good chance. No. Oh, well, I guess we charge. There's only one unit that has to charge, and this is the thing. Turin can rally that, so. Well, now we're not in danger because we can keep these two units from moving. This one won't move. Anyway, we'll check for another continuation. There's still a danger of the leaders, but the Spaniards chased another French unit off the board. If we do get a continuation, I will go for the good old make ready again. And we get it this time. No continuations there. That's going to put the dice here. I'm going to break. I'm tired and just going to go watch some videos or something for a little bit more. I hope I get awake again because I don't want to come back on Sunday. It's, Friday at like 6 a.m. or something, but I also don't want to keep going. I am up on Saturday, barely. Maybe it's already moved to Sunday. And I launched. I had about a half hour, but I feel like I've been here for a while. This unit changed into charge, and we're seeing a massive attack going on here. Had some more Spanish casualties due to countercharges, and one of which actually sent the leader of the French wing off map, but not dead. And, thus no points for it, but I probably can't really, I don't really want to lose my wing leader. I'm already going to lose an activation now at an important point. I guess mainly Burgundian cav, remarkably successful. You can see the pounding that was taken there. We have a continuation check, which will go, I need to reform. There's no question. But as we know, unless I drop into rally, that's not a guarantee by any means. And I don't want to drop into rally. Some of my units could still hit some of those French and beat them up if need be, but I'd rather get into the make ready. And I do not. I continue charging. I forgot to move my commander, though, who is important because he can try to fix things over here. I had everybody out of command, but this is a cav wing. It has a range of 3. I vaguely remembered that. Went and looked it up, and yeah, indeed. Okay, the attacks didn't go quite as well. We got a couple that got pushed back, but still, overall, it's working. We go for another continuation, which I think we get. 0 to 3 on charge, right? With a -1, yeah. But at this point, I think we're forced into rally because everything is in a bad state. Which is good, because otherwise we'd have to roll for a rally and might not get it. But that does leave the French wing, like, it's 1 unit at this point. It is wiped out. And when a cav wing wins a flank, that tends to be a real problem for the infantry. So I think this battle is going to go to the Spaniards, especially since the French have a huge victory point burden to overcome for I'm not sure what reason. There's more Spanish troops. It's really just historically the French won, as far as I can tell, but it doesn't look preordained at all. That reserve cav wing, get it into charge, and kill myself a couple of the Spanish units. I do take a loss on one of my own, though. This thing only has 3 figures. I think this is the other one. Yeah. Definitely want to get out of charge, because this is too good a unit, and that's what I'd have to be hitting, which is not good. The situation here, it looks like the Spaniards have a little more than the French do here, but again, this wing looks like it's being decided this time on the French side. There's always a problem of the cav. Like, you got kind of 2 choices. Try to bring, your victorious cav around to fight the other cav, or wreak havoc on the infantry, essentially. And it's a long distance. A lot of damage can be done if you're trying to get your cav over there to protect. So probably the most likely result is that both sides are going to have their infantry mauled by cav. We shall see, especially once the infantry connects. It becomes particularly problematic because hedgehogs and the like are not necessarily the best thing to be in. Let's see if we get a continuation there. I didn't move Conde. I don't have anywhere better to have put him at the time. I mean, I could move him to this unit to ensure that I can recover it. But he needs to recover the unit he's on. I do get a continuation. I guess I go for make ready because I get a second activation. I get a chance at another activation after that. That will work. And then we should be able to recover some. Might have been a good time to go to rally simply because that charge would have been, continuing the charge would have been horrible. Let me now over to the infantry wing over here, which is intriguing. What have I not used? I think just the 2 infantries are unused. Yeah. Again, even a tiny cav fight like that, I want to walk away for a bit. It's really hard to force myself to come up here at this stage. I still don't, I don't know. I just want to watch videos or read or something like that. But I do force myself to come up and play a little bit, kind of every day, just as a matter of otherwise it'll slip, it'll get too hard to come back. Here to the sound of owls. I decided not to do much with the Spaniards. I unlimbered my guns and I moved my cav formation. All the cav that I had interspersed, I don't see them as terribly valuable in that sort of formation. On the other hand, they provide a strong protection against where the French have gained a cav advantage. And if I, when I do advance or whatever, that's going to be useful to me. That'll put it on the French now. Up with the French doing basically nothing, firing their artillery. Condé moved around a little bit. We have a check to see if we get that commander back or whoever his replacement is. It will be his replacement. So he goes here, I guess. And I don't know who the hell he was. That's Grammont. Who is replaced with Laferte, who is not any better than a colonel. No. Oh, it's on the left wing here. I don't know where I have a French unit. That's him. Doesn't matter too much because I don't have much of a command there. And that is the end of turn 2. One of the guys I listen to a lot of his YouTube stuff, and this is all I've been kind of doing. He covered a number of places I live or have lived in videos recently. So he did one on Eugene actually as the capital of homelessness for the U.S. But he also, I watched one on Action Park in Mount Vernon, which I only went to like once or twice at most, but it wasn't like for a lot of my friends and classmates, it was sort of a, the exciting thing to do in our area, right? I remember going once. I don't know if I went a second time. But I used to drive by, or I used to ride in the car when somebody else was driving by it quite often. It was on the way to my dad's work. And now I'm watching one on, like, the problems that Phoenix is facing. I watched one on Detroit, too, but I was never in Detroit. Haven't seen one on Buffalo. I wonder if we will. I mean, it faces a lot of the same kind of problems as Detroit did. Back up here at some stupid hour, getting around 6 a.m. I got one unit under charge, these couple of Spanish cav here. It's getting kind of messy. I kind of feel like I should use those, but it's, you know, for example, the French command is over here. His orders are up there. But I'm just so familiar with this that it's hard for me to utilize that. Anyway, these guys are actually functional, and charge doesn't seem like a bad choice for them. Unfortunately, and this is because I wanted to pin a unit so that I couldn't intercept something else, I got intercepted and wiped out. And my leader's gone, and that means this is no longer in command. So this wing has just failed. And now I'm over to one of the French wings, and it kind of doesn't, well, I have all of them to choose from, basically. It's hard to tell, you know, where I want to go. La Croix or whatever. This command slips into a receive charge, and I start recovering some stuff again, moving him off this to where he can command everything. That puts it back on. That'll be the Spanish main infantry wave. I may need to go into charge just to launch all this cav out there. Not sure. Able to jump into charge. We're launching a massive attack to try to take out the cav as much as possible. Our firepower, the Spaniards had really heavy guns. And being able to move them up to this range was really important to being able to pound, you know, and get some effective hits. And since I got effective hits, I'm charging forward hard with the infantry as fast as I can. I want to break that line as well. This could well develop into a pretty massive Spanish victory, honestly. Run into the problem of the mixed wings. I have a big cav force. It would like to reform. It's not in shape to hit again. It's not in shape to stand up to this. That's probably the most important thing for the battlefield. But I could also be contacting and it's hard for me to reform as well, because if I go into make ready, I can't improve many of those. So it kind of has to go all the way to either rally or receive charge. Let's see if I get my continuation first. That's the important thing. I think I'm going to try to go into make ready. I'm sorry, into receive charge. If I can't get into that, well, then I continue my charges. My cav will suffer for that, but I don't know what else to do. And I do not get into it, so yep, we hit again. I mean, I've done damage to the French force. Oh, by the way, I knocked out one of the cav leaders back here, the auxiliary cav. So he's not going to get an activation, which, you know, gives me a little bit of an advantage there. So indeed, a bunch of attacks over here. I launch forward with the infantry, capture all the French guns, and I'm going to force the weakened units to fight. It took some definite damage going up against the guys who aren't formation shaken, but I wanted to take those guns out. And we've got what amounts to a massive mess here. The Spaniards, I think, mainly beat the French back here, although there's one here still from this route. Here, we punched a bunch of the infantry off the board, but got a little less effective on this wing, where we weren't trying to hit as hard. And we did not get a continuation. I don't think I rolled. We do not get a continuation. And that'll put me back over on the French commanders, which is either this guy or the infantry. The infantry probably has no real hurry as to what they want to do. I need to break. This was pretty bloody push that may have decided the battle. It may have been sort of, I mean, it feels like the battle was being decided. The Spaniards have won this flank. This one, the cav, the influx of that center wing cav, messy as that is, and actually, I probably misused and brought, some of their left wing into that last attack. I know I avoided it on the first one, but I think on the second swing I ended up throwing them in. I don't know, because it's kind of hard to see what there is. I can't find it by just taking that off. I have to flip the counter off over. Well, those are center. I may not have anything left. This is a left wing unit, and I'm pretty sure I fought with him, which I shouldn't have been allowed to. This is a French unit. Yeah, I think I have one left wing unit left, but the commander's gone, and it almost makes sense that he'd integrate. Although, honestly, it's a stronger position not to have that happen, because having additional wings is actually more useful under this system. French center destroyed a couple of Spanish units through gunfire and a melee, and tried to rally some stuff, whatever. I mean, reform, whatever. I didn't want to go directly into receive charge. I hoped I would get a continuation, and that did not happen. I did manage, though, to use Conde to fix a couple of routed units. Now I'm over here. This has to drop into rally, because it's just one piece, which means I'm not going to get continuations on that, and then we're going to go into the Spanish force in rally as well. The cav here was unable to get out of rally, and that really limited what they could do, because the commander, he didn't have everything in command. He moved some cav up that's in formation shaken, but wasn't able to do anything about these guys. Leopold did something about them, and also rallied them on router. That puts us to the end of the turn. I gotta check those other leaders. I've got one French, one Spanish. They're both dead, so we'll get replacements for them. The Spanish infused a great deal more power by pushing their center cav out here. I don't know how much value it's going to be, because they're out of command now. I've got to kind of try and figure out how to utilize that cav and the infantry at the same time. And it's very, very painful to try to do. Yes, I can pretty much have all the infantry in command and then run over and try to command the cav. I do have a leader over here. That is, I think, the only unit under his command. Kind of like the singular unit here. The new colonel is in place here as well. And that'll get us to the fourth turn. And I'm going to go watch some more about Tiberius Gracchus. About 4 p.m. on Sunday, and I've been avoiding coming up here. I slept a good deal. There's no question about that. Get up partway through, whatever. I got a couple of units a couple of wings in charge. One's just this, which is just that one unit. No problem. He's going to fall into rally. But the other is this complicated, big central command, and I've got my mess of my cav section of that, which is vital to trying to hold this. and I think is going to force me out of charge because it needs to recuperate, although my infantry is actually okay, and I'm going to have trouble getting that in command and everything. I'll do the easy one first because I'm not facing anything from the enemy in between, and it doesn't really cost me. Fortunately, I was unable to get into make ready with this, which is going to cause me some serious issues. I forgot about this guy running away. I think I may just let him go because this actually, I have both forces in command if I stay where I am for these. I do have like a firing lane open there. I might be able to find one through there. Although this guy's too far back, I can't hit him by any reasonable line of sight rolls, so I'll ignore that. The infantry was much better positioned for the charge. You can see a massive assault happening there, whereas the cav, yeah, did a little bit of shifting and whatnot, but for the most part, I don't have much. I still have this unit. I gotta figure out something to do with him. I think he might be hitting the flank on that. And the first swing isn't very good. It does knock out one of his commands here. I believe, no, I believe the E command. I don't know which units are part of it anymore. That'll be the make ready over here. He got hit and knocked out of the battle for now. Hits along here, yeah, I mean, they had some effect, but not terribly good, to tell you the truth. It wasn't horrible. I killed a big unit, but we got routers coming off from the approach and whatnot, and it just, that yellow counter, yeah, that unit is ahead of that. I don't know. You know, we pushed this guy back, but he got an inability to retreat because he's so packed in that he's able to stand. Let's roll for a continuation, and if I get it, I'm gonna have to reload pipe, but otherwise, yeah, we're gonna get the continuation. So I got to think a little bit about that. Right, some ugly command and control issues. I can't get these units into command anymore. I don't know. I guess I successfully hit something and screwed up my command status. I drop all the way into rally. I need to fix things. All the way in rally, we still are able to do firing and melee attacks. The firing takes our action so we don't recover, but that's okay in some cases. And we knocked out some more of those heavy infantry. The French are out of them now. The big units. Oh, shit. I hope this is... fuck. All right, well, this thing's been attacking as if it had pikes. I mean, it's fucking impossible for me to be able to tell. They look, you know, so similar. Trying to recognize. It's not a matter that, you know, my eyes can't see it. It's just that it takes a moment to register, to figure out, is that a pike unit? And I'm so used to those heavy infantry having pikes that I just assume it is. Yeah, it's a 1 point difference, but a lot of these attacks were at +1, you know? Just operating on only, you know, the difference between these two icons, the image of the man. That's all that I have to work with to remind me. And again, you know, look, historical stuff's interesting. I like to know the nationality and all that. It's great. I don't really know if I need a color band, which is a lot of information for that. Whereas, like, wing positioning could be the color band. A whole bunch of other stuff could be that. The nationality could just be a little parenthesized thing, because that's not of any importance in most of these scenarios for the play of the game, right? What's important, what wing you're in, what type of unit you are, etc. The graphics for this game are poorly designed, in my opinion. I'm trying to see what I got left. There is, this command is still left. So we know we're going there. It's one of these two is going to be used. Actually, most of the French commanders are still available. And I got to find the leader for this and flip him. For the Spaniards, we still have this, which is in rally. That'll go before this, I guess. But we got a couple of make readies to do. But that was a hell of a complicated situation, which of course I screwed up because of the the graphical design on these counters is just not enough to carry all the information. High value information locations are wasted on stuff that's not important, and that has no effect on play. And other stuff requires too much processing. Like, the system's complicated enough. You don't want to have to pause for a second on each battle to check, is that a pike unit? Only the center was eligible, actually. It was in receive charge, or as a make ready. Dropped down into receive charge and repaired what I could. And this is not active. That's this guy over here. But the cav wing, whatever there is of it, it's really hard to find things, especially once there are counters on top of stuff. That's in receive charge. I'm trying to see if there's anything else, any Spaniards left. The only Spaniard left is in rally. So I've got a rally here, a rally here, and then the receive charge cav, which I have to puzzle out and try to figure out where they are and whether that's what they want to be doing as an order. 2 units in that command, these two, and I was unable to get into make ready, which would have been just as good for them. That will throw me over to the rally over here. Ugh. Yeah, when the battlefield starts getting messy like this, it's really, really hard. Like, units are interspersed. Like the Spaniard behind here, he gets shots when that thing reforms, Cav wing was in pretty good shape. Had some reloading to do. I tried to move into make ready. Couldn't get there. Stay in rally. And nothing good happens. That puts me to this, which actually has to stay in rally. And then we're at end of turn. We got this guy running off the map. This guy making his way towards the edge, whatever. Comes back. Don't have to roll or anything for that. And that's, I guess, the end of 4. Kind of disturbed, yeah. Last time I did gaming, I knew I had 4 people coming, so I could prep the game and everything. This time, I have absolutely no idea. Now, I kind of need to know tonight, and or tomorrow, in order to prepare for the next day. And it's like, I'm just like, I've got one person who's answering. I don't know if she's answering for 1 or 2 already. And she's kind of my conduit to everyone else that I expect to reply. I've gotten a definite no. Like I've got two people that are outside of this group. One is a definite no, and one I don't think is going to say yes. So, um, yeah. And then otherwise, I've got like a contact who's kind of like, I just have no idea. It's just so fucking hard to put things together when, it's not sort of a regular group and everything. And I'm like basically relying on someone else to make all the contacts. And I think it's probably like, I could probably safely say there might be 4, but it might not even happen, and I just don't know. Back up here, if you hear some weird music type sound, that's my game playing itself right there. As loud as the owl, at least. All right, we're at the beginning of a new turn. We're going to be hitting, honestly, it looks like all the Spaniards are in rally. The highest thing is that E command. It's just 1 unit. But I took a peek at the new counters from the multi-packs of musket and pike. And I know a lot of people have complained, oh, they're so ugly, whatever. It looks like there's more information on them. The graphics are trying to represent a formed unit rather than, an image of one guy. I kind of don't care with that. I can get used to the graphics pretty easily. It looks like you don't have to do things like try to spot, hey, does he have a pike? This guy does. This guy doesn't. I find that really, really difficult. I think that is actually covered in the new presentation, and I think there may be more information. I didn't look at the backs too carefully because one of the problems here is that the wing command isn't listed on the back. But it looks like the way they've designed them, they may have put more information on the counters. That's really, really helpful. One thing I kind of don't like, again, I don't think it's the best place for it. The nationality color, I think, has been moved kind of to the middle of the counter. It's not an important thing at all, like for the play of the game. And, that information is here. It's all nicely covered and everything. I don't really feel like anything that's not necessary to gameplay needs to be on the counters. Certainly not taking up that much of the counter real estate in terms of importance and whatnot. Anyway, I do think that the new counters are probably more playable than the ones in these older games. So I would not go for the old ones. Plus, the rules are going to be more modern and whatnot. All right, well, let me get started. Didn't go too well. Took some casualties from this Spanish infantry firing from behind me, and Prince of Condé got shot. Not worth it, but it's like, yeah, I'm there. It's only a 10% chance, but they're going to catch you eventually. And it's one reason, protect your army commander or whatever, especially if he's good. This, again, it's a 20-point hit for your army commander, period. And then if he's good, it sucks to lose him. It really does. Up from receive charge to make ready here. Got a continuation. I just readied those. I actually could have launched an attack, but I don't know. This guy needed to reload. And I do double reloads because it just feels unreasonable that in 20 minutes I can only load one pistol. I don't know. Also because I would never reload fully, I guess. That puts me to the final well, to the final receive charge on that French wing there. Don't know what I'm doing with it yet. As bad luck continues. During the melee phase, they get a couple of, they knock one unit back, morale-wise. They break another unit, although they undergo some fire for that. But then the Spaniards hit them here. It's an even attack. I don't usually make even attacks, but it looked like a good idea in this case. Among the reasons was that the leader was there, and it was still an even attack. And I managed to get a lucky 9 and just destroy that unit, wiping out the command here. That means this activation is over, and we're now down to the Spaniards. Everything else is in rally, so rallies can recover, can switch to something else. But yeah, so now my big question is, I probably want to activate this first, because if I can wipe this unit out, then it doesn't get its rally, basically. The chance of going from rally to charge is very low, so I went to a make ready, even though I didn't really need it. I reloaded some pistols, but and then I didn't get a continuation afterwards. So, not great. That puts me to this guy. He doesn't have much he can do. We'll try to get him into something else. We're stuck in rally. That's going to put me over here. There's a fair amount of thinking going into these. I want to break. There's that music every time I do a hit is bugging me. Okay, after a bit of hunting, I found this is the only unit remaining of the Spanish left. I think I discovered that before, but it went out of rally into receive charge, then into make ready. I should have just gone right to make ready, honestly, but it didn't matter. I got the continuation. That would have been the thing at question. The main use of that, that unit recovered, but Leopold did more work running around solving problems. And now we go to the Spanish center, which is in rally. Does not need to be. Probably doesn't want to be. We finish up getting into receive charge with the center. He didn't get a continuation. He's abandoning the cav advantage he has over here, really. Well, I don't know if it's an advantage, but the center cabs, I just left them alone for the most part. That puts me to the end of the turn. We do have a couple of checks here. Guess the big one is Conde. Neither one's coming back. Got to figure out my commanders. Chatillon is replaced by essentially a nobody. I feel like they're sort of misusing counters when they put ones that don't matter for any purpose other than historical note. Again, like giving the national designation. This is a waste of counter space that could be used. They could have thrown an extra colonel in or whatever. Yeah, I can use them as colonels. They're essentially the same. They're not worth any victory points, and they have no command capability. Conde, and this is something kind of annoying about how this one's set up. Conde's listed here with a senior wing commander. I know in one of the other ones they put it under the commander. If you have a replacement, if you have a senior wing commander, it ought to be in the same place, because you're flipping through. You got to see if there's a replacement army commander. Now in this, they kind of put both in the same place here with a replacement Spanish commander, who's actually better than Leopold. Still don't want to lose the 20 victory points, so, but yeah, that's the end. You got this artillery moving again. I think it had a clear shot, but I think line of sight wouldn't have allowed it. Again, it's over the crest of the hill. I don't know how I feel about that. The rules kind of don't handle that, but it also would have been a really unlikely shot. So I'm going to continue just moving my artillery forward. And yeah, that puts us to turn 6 and replacing stuff. The French have obviously lost this battle heavily. And we're expected to win it heavily. I don't know how. I don't know how. I view this, yeah, they have better commanders. Maybe they have some better quality troops overall, but it's not by all that much. And it just feels like they have a huge deficit to overcome. When they're in the defensive, it just feels weird. Like there's too many things wrong, you know. Anyway, I think some of these scenarios needed to be better thought about in terms of figuring out the victory conditions or whatever. And make the hill important or something because, yeah, I don't know. Hopefully, I got a response that's good enough and in time enough. It's not perfect. I'm getting between 4 to 6 players, probably 4, but because no responses generally mean they don't want to go. But there's one person who he showed up last time and maybe a little flaky and like might wait till like way later to make a decision. But anyhow, that puts me at the beginning of the turn, and we have 2 make readies against 2 make readies. Nothing here. Okay, so it's this one matches that. That doesn't do any good. These 2 match. I'm gonna call it even. And the French will go first with one of their 2. They're a larger, more prepared force, which manages to get a couple of charges in. I've only got 2 units here, 1 here, and this one needed to recover first. So this will allow me to do some hits and then potentially recover afterwards, whatever. Got lucky with none of the interceptions succeeding. Charges were fully successful, destroying 2 Spanish aligned units with, basically no losses, which is great. But my charge did not get a continuation. So now we're down to the Spanish side. I'm not really worried. First of all, I get to go before him anyway. So I want to try to recover before this thing maybe gets a swing at me. There is no recovery. This thing gets to attack. I may actually rather have him go first because then I can do an interception and I can't be intercepted on the interception. So it actually makes sense for me to go over here. Over on the Spanish side, so now back to the remaining French unit. It wants to make ready because it's got to improve its formation. And the Spaniards have the advantage now with Leopold, and they have a lot of advantages, but they have an advantage with Leopold running around fixing stuff with no French leader able to match that. We're back to the Spanish center, which is still problematic. I still got a couple of cav here. Yeah, Leopold can go get to them, but he ran this way instead. Able to get out of received charge. Did I do anything? I haven't moved Leopold yet. I haven't moved a lot of things actually, but I guess the big thing though that happened was there was an interception of formation change there, and the French destroyed the Spaniards but chased them off the map. So now I've gotten rid of one of the annoyances here, along with one of those center wing cav as well. So yeah, things are getting a lot easier to cope with right now. Maximal, I keep forgetting to move the artillery too. Fuck. The maximal response. I don't want to move this one. I don't even want to unlimber it because it'll be in range. Anything I do will be in range. I got kind of a maximal response in terms of 2 continuations. Yes, I was stuck in receive charge for the first one, but then I got to make ready. Now I'm in charge. We're going to see the Spaniards try to drop the hammer at this point, and they've got a lot of advantages over the French force. And we had an absolutely massive charge against the French. Now, the French cav got to do some countercharge type stuff going on, and I know they knocked one down here. This guy, some of them got shot back by firepower, some of them got knocked out. I think I killed 2 units actually, which is pretty big as I continue my way on. And now, having cleared this out, now the artillery can move forward kind of at will without being worried about getting hit. Plus, I turned their flank. That was an incredibly violent action pulse, whatever. This one French unit drove a couple of Spaniards off before one finally shook his morale and sent him back. We got some hits here that are not good. I think in the melee, as opposed to the countercharge period, you know, the interceptions and whatnot, the melee the Spanish are doing quite well on. I do have a chance at another continuation still. Look for my commander. He's over here in command of this one unit. And he will not get a continuation. That's going to put things... Who's left? We got this guy left. What's he doing off there? What the hell? That can't be where he is. Like, I think he unstacked from a unit. But if so, might be this unit. I don't know. So he's left, so we have a rally and a received charge. Certainly the received charge is going to be the next thing. And I'm looking, scanning, looks like I've done all the Spaniards already. I know I don't have a hell of a lot to do, but I'm going to break again. Remaining French wings, this poor unit is just stuck there. I mean, I could have gone and tried to save that. Instead, I went up to this. Each only got 1 activation. This one, there was some fire traded, but we did some reforming. I may do an attack with that. And then over here, this guy made it into make ready, but didn't get a continuation. I do think I want to make an attack there. I have advantages that I did not, like I recognized I did, and I might want to make an attack here with the Spaniards as well. Both of those went for the French. This one was at a +1. He got bounced off. It's always risky. But this one, we managed to rout someone, I think. Either that or kill someone. One of those two. That's going to push us forward to turn 7. This battle is beginning to wind down, but it's also, you know, the forces are thinning out at the same time. Clean up, and I'll be back. A glance after the routers have moved. We actually had another one here. Yeah, Spaniards definitely took some hits. All right. All right, back up here. We got 2 wings in charge. I'm looking for Beck is this one. And this guy's this one. This is gone. That wing's gone away already. So let's make a check to see who goes first. and we'll make it the Spanish. That's... I don't know how likely I am to want to stay in charge, but I can't draw. I am not in a position where I have to drop into rally. That's for sure. I've got at least part of it there that's well formed. Center goes into make ready. This is more likely to give me more activations. Rally wasn't likely to, although it would be the preferred choice, I guess, across the board. I forgot about my cannons again. I think I want to unlimber most of those guns, maybe all of them. I don't know. We'd like to get up on top of the hill, to be honest. But things are looking ugly. Anyway, we didn't get a continuation. I always forget the guns. Which means that stuff is not going too well for us. Little French cav wing that's over here. I guess. I don't know. I can't tell. Yeah, it's part of that right wing still. They couldn't get out of charge and bounced off this thing. This thing's formation broken, couldn't do a damn thing about it. And then failed to get a continuation. That's going to put me over to one of the make readies. We got one here, one there. Another one unit command. I fired it off to recover, and Leopold ran around doing his job. That puts me over to that French unit. Gosh. Do I want to charge? I mean, whatever I do, I'm going to get hit. You know, I got so many options to intercept that I'm probably gone. But not much has happened here because the Spaniards haven't been able to get into a charge themselves. The French get intercepted, but it still doesn't resolve the issue. I think we have this command and the French infantry, and that's it. And this is in make ready. Let's see if we can get a charge out of them. I don't remember. Yes, we can. Unleash on this thing, but also along the line here on some of the damaged units. This is maybe, I mean, look, we're probably not going to wipe out all the French units in 3 more turns. We might, but this is a good start on it. We destroy this wing, we knock a unit back, another unit back, we chased one off the board, no more continuation, or no continuation successful. Over to the French. I need a pipe, and things are kind of weird because I kind of want to go to sleep soon, I think, or whatever. I don't know. I was hoping to finish this relatively soon, but gosh. All right, I'll be back. And unable to get into rally. I don't know if it matters too much. I got, you know, a formation fix on everything except this guy way down here, and I really couldn't do anything about him. That should end it and get me here. This guy, let's see if he dies. It's of absolutely no importance, but he does. This moves forward and we do cleanup. After a failed attempt to sleep, you know, for about 40 minutes or so. I'm back up here at 6 a.m. and let's take a crack at whatever's next. We got a French unit under charge and the Spanish cav over here. The French have the better leader, so they go first. It's a forced rally. The Spaniards did not intercept it, so now we're over on this side. Unable to get out of charge. I didn't want to just try to go for rally. I went for a make ready. We got to hit a couple of units, and then the rest of the command moving up into place. Off. Try for a continuation, which we do not get. That puts the command. Let's see. Charges are done. Get a couple make readies over here to one of these two Spanish formations. This one being very complicated, but having the most to do. Kind of doesn't matter which one I go with first, though. So I might as well take the little cav unit, help clear things up there. Able to drop into charge and destroy the French unit. And I forgot to make the important roll to see if I leave. That's going to be a pursue and eliminate, so I get a formation broken there. Unable to get into receive charge. Unlimbered all our guns, fired one of them. Got hit by a French unit here, which probably should have hit us at another point, I don't know. And now a continuation check on that make ready, which actually succeeds. So I think we still want to go down to receive charge if we can. That's good enough. And that'll allow us to dress our troops a little better, get the morale up. I'm not very worried about this. If the French want to go save that, it means like kind of neglecting command here to some extent. Although all these units will be in command, it also means this one's ignored completely. So it's kind of a, hey, if you want to run around and try to do stuff, that's fine. Whatever. Continuation, we're able to rally some more of our forces. We pulled back to here. We're actually, I think, pretty much all in command at this point, unless we got somebody way off. I don't think so. Just because we got such a big formation, such a big wing, and then we have these artillery as well, so we can spread out over quite a bit of territory. Where does that put me? That's Leonidas. I don't think I moved him for the continuation, so I should do something with him. But after that, and I'll move him to another location and fix another unit in a moment. I think just this. That's the only unit unused right now. Let me find where Leopold shows up as an attack. I should have made it. Anyway, this guy gets to launch an attack here back on that turn before the continuation. I would have done that. I meant to do that. It's often hard to juggle everything you're trying to remember, especially when things are this jumbled. These didn't go at all well. The Spaniards got bounced off with a terrible roll. Attacker does not want to, or the defender does not want to advance. I'm trying to figure out what I can possibly do with the French. I mean, they're just going to get mauled, right? This is like the Rocroi scenario where the French were, surrounding the Spaniards. Yeah, I could form Hedgehog or something, but it's kind of a losing strategy when it comes down to it. We could just call it if we wanted to. I feel like I need another pipe because it's going to take some actual thought to figure out, what I want to do. I can't even get here, can I? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I can't even get to him, so he's just gone. A hell of a lot of difference between rally and receive charge when it comes down to it. Receive charge gave me enough to fix all this. Now this guy, forgot about him. No, he had a morale hit on him. They took off. Okay. Receive charge allowed me to take all of these. With the rally, I could have run someone here and fixed this from a hit as well. So I don't know, but there was some chance, a 20% chance, that I get another activation out of the received charge, and so I went with that. But anyway, this is going to route off board, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's cav. And otherwise, it's just cleanup. I got that leader to check. I don't think he has anything to lead. He's just, is he dead or not? And he's dead. So yeah, all we have is one kind of crappy leader in charge of this little infantry formation here. And we're really just trying to hold out as much as we can for 2 more turns. I mean, it's not like we've caused insignificant damage to the Spaniards. Again, like at Rocroi, these battles are bloody, okay? Remember, when a unit is destroyed or whatever, it's routed off the board. It probably has not taken, 50% losses even. I know it seems like it takes more because of the numbers that are going under them, but that's like the melting away of the cohesion as well as everything else. I know he doesn't talk about it as cohesion hits, and in some cases they are definite hits, but most of the units are just, it's routed, it may not, you may not see it route off the board, but it runs off the board. It just does so with no chance of retrieval. And maybe, is being pursued and chopped up worse. And the pursuit's going to be ugly. Where that happens, so here's one of the things. If I hit like a cav unit with a cav unit and chase it off the board, maybe less with an infantry unit, if I don't pursue it, I probably am not butchering that unit very heavily. It's probably getting off in reasonable order, where it could probably fight in another day or two, to some extent at least. But and the vast majority of units are not getting whittled away by actual casualty points. Casualty points are a really rare way to wipe something out. Although some of these lighter infantry units, they do seem to melt. I don't know why. Because they bang up against each other and start firing at each other. And, you can do like 80% of a unit's, like a unit goes up in the line, if it's going against the solid line, it's taking 2 shots against it. That could be 4 hits. And on a 5 strength point unit, that's, 80% of it just melts away from the fire. All right, let's do the cleanup. I just don't feel like going to sleep. It's like 7 a.m. Later than I've been up the last, I don't know, I guess yesterday. Because, I went to sleep earlier on Friday, Saturday morning too. But it's kind of weird. I came up here figuring I'll play another turn or whatever my tea takes me through. And I hear noises, woo woo type noises. And I don't know if it's an animal or humans. I poke my head out. There are people in the park. It's fucking raining out. Like, it's been raining all night and everything. I don't know if they're at the pavilion or what. But at this hour of the day, it doesn't make a lot of sense in either direction. Like, I don't know. It's just, I found it amusing. This is pretty rare. Usually there's no one up there in the early morning. And maybe it's workers emptying the trash and being excited and happy. Anyway, let's get started. I got charges on both flanks. One of them is just 1 unit, which these basically don't affect anything. Well, they don't affect each other. This can perhaps wipe out the French damn near. The easy one was a forced rally. I used Leopold over here to recover a unit because that's the next wing to go, I guess. Although I might have been better off hitting something close to the enemy. Wing, trying to limit my attacks, but I do want to make some. one unit I attacked out. I get a continuation check, which doesn't work. That's fine, you know. Where does that put me? The 2 charges are done. These are both received charge, so we're going to be up on that French line there for whatever it's worth. We're just wiping out the rest of the French, really. French got 2 activations. Second one, so far. Second one resulted in this unit being hit. This one's being recovered. I get another attempt at continuation with them, which will not work. This guy actually gets a flank fire that I didn't take. Up a couple of guns, moved a couple forward, going into make ready because it's easier. And I haven't moved him yet. You know, I'm often catching things in the midst. I don't know if he can do much. He can fix something over here because everything here moved. Getting into position so we can do advancing fire. We're ready to try to land our blow, whatever that is, and especially coming from behind, that's going to be painful to the French. And for once, I send a cav unit behind these guys. They all form hedgehog, one at a time. If any of them had failed their morale check like this guy, he had to run off. I got 5 movement points left. I could chase this thing down, but he's going to run anyway, I think. So I don't know. But that makes them ineffective firing. If we look at hedgehog, it's not there. I'll look at the hedgehog rules. I don't do it very often. It's generally so bad. Because it's not allowed to fire at all. And it can't initiate close combat, which means all my infantry can move up and do initial fire as well as possible. This was maybe a bad time to do it because there was only one cav threatening them all. It does give them a bonus, though, against, for example, this momentum piece here. I was kind of unhappy about this guy going in there. I certainly don't want to hit. Yeah, I might as well go after this. He's not going to have a momentum because he had to turn at the end, but he didn't have a lot of movement left. And now I'm going to be able to move in and just rain fire down on them. How chewed up the Spanish units are. I mean, look at all these, you know, casualty threshold units. Not having to take incoming fire when I do the introduction fire. And, you know, some of these guys are down to like a strength point or whatever. But as long as these guys are in hedgehog, I can just plink away at them without any response. And that's a huge, huge factor, right? I might still choose to make some attacks. They don't have that option, though. And it's just, I've handcuffed them, basically. Had I not formed hedgehog, well, who knows where I would have hit. I could have hit, you know, this unit very easily, but I already had advantages on these guys, so maybe I shouldn't have gotten close enough to let them form hedgehog and tried to swing around and threaten the rear or whatever, but I had enough movement points that I could hit this. Attack by a solid unit would have been a +1. I don't want to do that. Just, it's too weak. I did chase this thing off a little further, and he's going to be out of command range. And we get another continuation. I can keep the charge going if I so desire. Or I could go for something that could recover this unit. For that matter, well, it could charge, but Charging against Hedgehog isn't wise. What do I wish? I don't know the answer to that. I think I'm going to try to get into a make ready to fix that unit and maybe some other things. Well, that's not going to do. So we stay on charge. It's melt under fire. One of them, his morale broke, and he didn't have anywhere to retreat to. It was this guy. And he ended up failing the check to stand. What's kind of weird, so the check to stand, I get why it's okay for good units that are tightly packed, that have other units behind them, whatever, that don't have a retreat from that. But when you're surrounded, it's a lot harder to believe. It's a lot harder to believe that like the unit has as good a chance of sticking around as it does. Of course, in a situation like this, these are just melting away. And I think we're essentially done with the turn, which means one more turn to finish off those last couple of froggies, and we'll recover, the cleanup stuff. Sneezing a bit again. I kind of nap a little bit, but not for very long, maybe a half hour. It's now 10. And let's finish up this last turn. That'll allow me to get to what I'm going to play on Tuesday, tomorrow. It's Monday now, right? Which is Imperial. I haven't played Imperial in a long, long time. It's actually kind of funny. I found an online version of it, and before my wife and I ever met, we played, I don't know, one or two, just to get kind of a feel for it. I don't know if I ever played it with her physically, and I don't think I ever played it opposed face-to-face. I played it online, with a couple other people, just to see what the server was like, to get a view of, do I want to own this game? And I decided yes. I'm terming it as, so I set up a bunch of classifications, one of which is geopolitical, and I think it kind of fits under that. Kind of like it feels like diplomacy, right? But I consider it exceedingly cynical geopolitical, because you're like investing in the countries, and like how well they do is how well your interest pays off from them. Okay, let's see what we got here. There's 2 Spanish wings in charge. This is the last turn of the game. Unless there's some really good reason not to be in charge, I think we want to. We want to keep closing on those hedgehogs. You can't drop out of hedgehog as easily as you can drop into it. I think it's very hard to drop out of. Like open order, it turns into when you leave it, it turns into formation shaken, which is definitely not ideal for anyone. Did a hit. Now I get to go to continuation. I may want to drop out of charge for this, just because I'm less restrictive if I'm in receive charge. I wanted to move a couple of these infantry forward. But now, let's go to make ready if we can. And we do. That's cool. Another French unit melts. That leaves me just down to this one. And he only has like he has 1 or 2 strength points. And then this cav that's trying to escape. Let's see if we get another continuation. We do not. Which puts me to the cav charge. I just moved these cav. I don't want to hit the hedgehog. But got a couple of shots on this. It should melt, but we're not sure. About that cav, I should have moved my cav in. I didn't have to actually charge, just get some shots off, but oops, I forgot. This thing's in make ready. It really can't do anything. So I'm going to just call it at this point and count the points. This had better be a Spanish victory. I mean, they wiped the French off the map, right? They captured all the guns and everything. This had better be a decisive Spanish victory. But especially since the point valuation is, so there were more Spanish troops on the board, but the point valuation is in favor of the Spaniards for some strange reason. I mean, historically they lost, and it could happen. I'm not disputing that. The game has a lot of flexibility and luck in it. I just think I'd favor them. Or call it a close to even battle. Them with more troops, the French with maybe slightly better troops and better leadership. But, and an extra wing. The extra wing is a big deal. Like, more command opportunities can be really, really helpful. But not when, not when you melt. All right. Mass of points and the battle itself is pretty much decided by the actual lost units. The Spaniards lost 185 points worth of units. The French lost 280. Leaders here, the French lost 30 points of leaders, the Spaniards 5. The French lost 35 points of guns captured. Losing the field is bad if you lose your guns, and you will almost always lose your guns if you have any. Then finally, the Spanish took more casualty points on the board than the French did, because the Spanish had troops still on the board, and a lot of them were pretty beaten up. Got 31 points, but we're still looking at a 128 point difference, which is certainly massive. But here's what's crazy. This gives a Spanish decisive, but if the French had won by this amount, they would barely be into the marginal victory. Historical outcome they give is a French decisive at 190. This one felt like kind of a crapshoot. I feel like both sides had a chance on it. It is easy to get a decisive victory if you start, rolling over the enemy, but like happened here. But I don't see that as being all that more likely for the French. And that big 100-point difference is really harsh, especially since it puts the French in a position where they can say, it puts the French in a position where they absolutely have to attack when they're holding the high ground, and I believe historically fought defensively. The Spanish charge in the left, the center charges. There's no reason that the Spaniards should even attack in this scenario by the game victory conditions. And this is the same thing we faced, I think, in the one immediately previously. You kind of have to throw out the victory conditions when you're trying to make your decisions in this game. A 0 in this game, in this particular scenario, is a Spanish decisive victory. If you're going to decisive victory by not fighting, there's something very wrong there. If I had seen, I don't know, I don't really know. The French have to absolutely wipe the Spanish out the way the Spanish wiped the French out in this, to be able to match their historical values. That's fine. I don't feel like the system and the scenario particularly make that a more likely outcome. It seems like it is a closely matched battle, and I don't know why the victory conditions are set the way they are. There's nothing in the special rules which really changes any of that. I don't know. Feels like they just completely got the points you know, wrong for the victory conditions. Anyway, we'll send this one up. And I am probably going to do something else before I get to this. I haven't even sorted the counters yet, have I? I thought I had them out somewhere. There are actually a number of these. I have volume 1. I don't think I have any of the others. I saw like up to volume 4 of them. I think they're all the French religious war stuff. I might have to start picking them up. You know, I would see the name and I'd be like, oh, I don't know which one I have or whatever. And it's in part because it's down with my magazine games instead of up with the boxes. So it's much harder to tell, hey, did I just, get the first one? Yeah, that turns out to be the case, which is kind of a shame. I'm going to look over the rules and make sure that they are indeed, they say they're musket and pike, but make sure it is indeed the same set, because this is probably a more recent rule book than that is. I remember buying it fairly early on and then kind of just forgetting about it. All right, let's send it up. I think I'm going to keep my counters sorted here simply because with the folder type folio, whatever you want to call it, it's not normally. And I was kind of hoping to find the counters because of that. I'm a little worried that it may not have as extensive markers and whatnot as this comes with, and might as well play with, a bigger set of them and just remember they go back in the boxed game instead.